Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 8 of the Odd Sports Topics podcast. I am Michael Rachel alongside PJ Ellis and Matt Costa. Boys, how are you doing today?
Doing good.
Doing great, Mike.
You guys are doing a little bit better than I am, especially in the picks department of our Odd Sports Topics blog. I am 1-3 now. I started off 1-0, and I probably should have quit right there. Now I'm 1-3. I'm down to over 2 units. PJ, you're in second place at 2-2. You're still down a little bit. You're down 0.26 of a unit. So you win this week, you'll be back in the green. And then we got Matt. Matt over here is 3-1, up 1.68 units. So you should definitely be riding Matt's picks and fading my picks every Sunday. We release the articles Saturday, so you can check it out and get your bets in. Either fade us or ride with us, but it's fun. Matt, what's your key to success in those picks?
Honestly, I try to target underdogs with a lot of value. I like to look for overreactions to the market from the week before. If I think a team didn't necessarily play as bad as the market seems to value them, I'll hammer that. A lot of times fade teams in bad spots. Like last week, I had the Packers over the Falcons. And I mean, the Falcons are in – I don't think there is a team in worse a spot than the Falcons right now. So that's what we look for. We just look to keep winning.
PJ, I'd like to make a comment on that. Yeah, the Washington football team's in a worse spot than the Falcons, and that's I'm a diehard Washington football team fan. Just wanted to throw that out there that we are in the absolute worst spot in football yet again. Good time to be a Washington football team fan. Good times.
Definitely not, PJ, but I think we need to – so I'm in last place, so me bringing this up is fair. I think there needs to be a punishment for whoever at the end of the year doesn't win as many units as the other people. So right now I'm down over 2 units in last place, but I could hit a big plus money underdog tomorrow or on Sunday and be in first. So I think there should be a little punishment or a little bet that we do for last place. What do you guys think about that?
I'm down. Just keep taking Brandon Cooks touchdowns, and I'd love to see you get punished. Keep taking those.
Yeah, I like that.
You guys are watching this on a Monday, so go back and look at our NFL bets for Week 5 and see if I climb the ladder a little bit, or if Matt and PJ continue to pull away from me. So yeah, go do that. And then also we're releasing our Team Name Tuesdays as usual. Matt just wrote a cool one on the Miami Heat, who again we were recording this before Game 6, which is on Sunday, but this is being released on the Monday afterwards. I'm hoping personally that we have a Game 7 tomorrow night. I hope Miami gets Game 6. Are either of you rooting for LeBron to close it in Game 6?
No.
Not
in the slightest.
Couple of LeBron haters over here. Not me.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys there. Jimmy Butler is a big topic, and obviously we'll get into our interview here with the video coordinator from the Milwaukee Bucks, Blaine Mueller, who PJ will intro in a little bit. One thing he talked about was, Jimmy Butler hitting those free throws against the Milwaukee Bucks in – I forgot what game. I don't remember what game it was. He says it with no time remaining. He got fouled and finished. He said that was the most odd thing he has seen on the basketball court. What did you guys think when he talked about that?
Yeah, the stat that he brought up was he couldn't remember whether it was just any game or any playoff game that ended on free throws with no time left in regulation since like 1939. I think he said, or something along those lines, something crazy like that, 69 maybe, something in a really, really long time that the game hasn't ended like that. So it was definitely odd. I remember that night watching it and texted my resident Bucks fan, aka you, to check in on you, see how you were doing in that moment. Because that was a tough way to watch that end. And it was weird on both ends because, Chris Middleton probably didn't get fouled, but neither did Jimmy Butler. It was a weird situation both ways. So yeah, no doubt in my mind that's one of the oddest things he's probably ever seen.
Matt, I brought it up to him and he didn't know the answer because obviously I just think weirdly about things. But I was like, no time left. Everybody's off the court. Everybody should go to the baseline right under the hoop and start throwing their arms up and waving towels and stuff because they're not on the playing surface. Is that something you would do in the NBA?
Honestly, I think I would have just walked off the court right then and there. I think I would have been very upset with the call. From a Bucks perspective, I would have been very, very upset. I probably would have just walked off. But that's just me.
Matt's pulling the Isaiah Thomas. He's not shaking
exactly.
hands.
No shaking hands. We're going right to the locker room. Get the hot shower.
The Tom Brady against the Bears.
Oh.
So, PJ, do you want to talk a little bit about Blaine? So, obviously, I mentioned he's the video coordinator for the Milwaukee Bucks, but you spent a little time with him at Lindenwood. So, you want to give us a little rundown of who Blaine Mueller is?
Yeah. So Blaine played college basketball himself up in a D3 school up in Wisconsin. And then he spent 2 years being a grad assistant with Lindenwood's men's basketball program under Coach Lance Randall. That's where I met Blaine. I was a student manager, so he was my like direct boss. He was who I worked with the most for his 2 years there. And he was fantastic when he worked with Lindenwood's men's basketball team. He handled everything from travel accommodations, like hotel and food, to just on-court stuff. Me and Blaine were occasionally on the practice squad together, so we'd practice against the players. So me and Blaine were teammates in a sense in that way. And then after his 2 years there, he moved on to he was a player development role, I think his first year, with the Milwaukee Bucks, and now he is in charge of video coordination. So it's really cool to see him grow and see him, from player to grad assistant to now working for one of the top NBA teams in the league. And every step of the way, he's just gotten better at what he does and growing more confident and stronger in his basketball IQ. So it was really cool to kind of pick his brain and see what he had to think about the bubble and the NBA and the Bucks and just his job in general. Obviously, he told us a lot of the behind the scenes from a video coordinator perspective, that stuff that you don't really see during the game. You see the coaches and you see the players, but you don't really see those guys behind the scenes that are making the little things like getting the film, tweaking the film, that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to interview him.
Yeah, Matt, one thing I really appreciated about Blaine's interview is he was really open and honest with us. Obviously, we couldn't ask the questions if Giannis was going to sign the Supermax or ask about, their inefficiency against the Heat when they got eliminated in the playoffs, because obviously Blaine does not want to talk about that, understandably. But he was very open and honest with everything behind the scenes, his relationship with Coach Budenholzer, what he has to do on a day-by-day basis. What takeaways did you have from Blaine?
I personally liked what he said about what it takes to fit in the NBA today. You got to be coachable. You have to be able to shoot. You have to be able to defend. Basically, you got to be able to live that NBA life. You have to be ready to take that next step because the NBA is so much different than any other level of basketball that these players have ever played. You got to be ready to take that professional step and really be a professional basketball player.
Everyone, you're still watching us, so go hit that subscribe button right here. Hit the like button on YouTube, Odd Sports Topics. Go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Odd Sports Topics, and then visit our website, oddsportstopics.com. PJ, it's NFL Week 5. We're just finishing up. Obviously, it's a Monday, and there's a couple games left for Week 5. One story that you wrote about a couple weeks ago was the history of the penalty flag and how it used to not be a flag, but rather they would just blow their whistle. You want to talk a little bit about that article since we're in the swing of the NFL season?
Yeah, if you haven't heard that yet, go back and check it out. It's under the NFL tab on oddsportstopics.com. But yeah, it was an interesting story on how that developed. It's a weird thing you see in sports to signal a foul or penalty. Most other sports, you see a whistle or something along those lines. In NFL, obviously, you see this yellow, almost like beanbag looking thing. And it started out cool. It's just, it used to be back in the day, a whistle would signify a penalty, but a whistle, like still today, also signified the end of the play. So there was confusion when you heard a whistle, whether it was signaling the end of the play or a penalty. So to fix that problem, it was actually a college coach, a Youngstown's college coach, who came home and was like, hey, this is a problem. He had his wife sew together, I think it was a sock with little like pellets in it. And therefore it became, he used it in practice the next day and it worked. Took it to a game, gave it to a ref. The refs loved it. It became a Youngstown thing. Every time they play, they used it. Other coaches were taking notice. They started doing it in their leagues, and eventually it made it all the way up to the NFL. And then it's cool as you read down further too. You'll see some controversy. It was made out of pellets. There was an incident in a game in the early 2000s where a player got hit in the eye by a ref throwing a beanbag and almost blinded him. So now you see that transition from the pellet style to the sand-ish that you have in there now. So it's just interesting to read on the history of the penalty flag, how it came to be, where it's at now, and yeah.
Yeah, that article was interesting just because, like, why would it even be a whistle in the first place? Like, who thought it was a good idea to have a whistle signify the penalty marker while at the same time signaling, touchdown, end of a play because of a sack, just like that kind of stuff. So that was weird. Matt, I want to come to you real quick. So some people think there's an asterisk next to the NBA championship. I don't think so. But what about in the NFL? Let's say the Tennessee Titans have to forfeit a game or something. Do you think if there's forfeiture in the NFL because of COVID, do you think there should be an asterisk next to the Super Bowl champion?
Personally, no, I don't think so. I think, the Tennessee Titans are one team. There's still 30 some odd teams left. I don't think that there needs to be an asterisk by the Super Bowl champion for this year. I think everybody is dealing with the same sort of issues, and it's just kind of how teams plan to avoid all these issues with COVID and everything. And some teams are better at that than others. I mean, we saw that with the St. Louis Cardinals this year here in St. Louis. They went through it for about 2 weeks. We had probably 10 days where their games were canceled or postponed. And that's just something that the team had to live with. If you don't take the right precautions to stay safe during these times, you kind of just got to deal with the punishment. You're grown men. All the rules were laid out to you before the season, and that's just something you got to follow as a professional.
What do you think about the teams that benefit from their lack of adhering to the rules, like the Steelers? If they were to get a win for free and didn't have to play the game and go on to win the Super Bowl, do you think you'd look back to their free win over the Titans and be like, well, if they had to play that game, maybe there's an injury, something like that? Or do you just think that's also just part of life right now?
I think in that case, it's a little different. If it affects playoff seeding, potentially with buys or anything, that could really affect my overview on if there should be an asterisk by the champion this year. Personally, I don't think a forfeiture by one team should benefit the team that they were supposed to play that weekend. I think rescheduling the games is the best possible way to go about this, just to keep everything fair. But obviously, if it gets to forfeiture, it gets there. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens.
PJ, what are your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I think if you start putting an asterisk by certain games, like if you say the NBA has one, then yeah, you're gonna have to look at the NFL if it has one, if the MLB has one. Obviously, the Cardinals are a good example. They've dealt with that for a long time. They came to the playoffs hadn't had a day off. They luckily got a few days off for the playoffs, but they were playing like double headers, back to backs for 2 months straight there because they missed so much time. They had to make up a ton of games. Did that affect them in the playoffs? Maybe, I don't know. Did the Padres have more rest and better preparation? I don't know. I mean, this is something you can't really. If you start nitpicking certain things during this time, then it's going to be like, well, everything has an asterisk because there's something you could find that, oh, this probably helped this team out because of COVID. This probably like every sport they probably have something like that. So either they all do or none of them do. And like a lot of NBA players are saying, this is probably one of the harder times to win a championship. A lot of these teams that can't see their families, they're stuck in this isolated bubble in a lot of cases where all it is that sport 24/7. They don't get the mental breaks. Like it's honestly maybe mentally tougher to win a championship during this time.
Yeah, I like that. So for stories kind of like this, where there's odd things that are occurring in sports, whether it be, from the past in the late 1800s with PJ's story on penalty flags or current stuff with COVID, stuff like that, check out our articles on oddsportstopics.com. Go follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Odd Sports Topics. And YouTube, obviously you're here watching our video, but if you want to send it on to somebody else, have them search into the YouTube tab, Odd Sports Topics. So good discussion, guys, but let's stop pushing off the interview with Blaine for the viewers, and let's get right to it. So here is the interview with the video coordinator of the Milwaukee Bucks, Blaine Mueller. Before we start the interview, the next time you're in Springfield, Illinois, make sure you check out Top Catch Chill and Grill located at 3211 Sangamon Avenue in Springfield, Illinois. Top Cats is a great restaurant to take your family to, your friends, or even just yourself. They have a lot of space inside to eat as well as an outdoor beer garden with shuffleboard for you and your friends or family to play. If you are feeling lucky, sit down and play some slots while you wait for your delicious food to be made. They are home of the Horseshoe, which is a really cool dish that includes chicken, fries, bread, and cheese sauce all in one. It's a very cool dish that is only known in Springfield. It's really, really good. Top Cats is located less than a mile from the freeway. So if you're making a trip from St. Louis to Chicago, St. Louis to Milwaukee, Milwaukee to St. Louis, or just stopping through Springfield, make sure you hop off and go check out Top Cats Chill and Grill on Sangamon Avenue. If I have not convinced you yet, how about some deals? Use promo word Team Name Tuesdays to get a deal on one of these three things: $5 mixed drink, $12 buckets, or $5 queso. Again, use promo word Team Name Tuesdays when at Top Cats Chill and Grill on Sangamon Avenue in Springfield, Illinois, to either get a $5 mixed drink, $12 bucket, or it's $5 queso. The promo word will change when our next episode releases. Really good spot there in Springfield. Make sure you guys go check it out. Now the interview with the video coordinator of the Milwaukee Bucks, Blaine Mueller. We now welcome on to the Odd Sports Topics podcast, former assistant basketball coach at Lindenwood University and current video coordinator for the Milwaukee Bucks, Blaine Mueller. Blaine, thank you for being here today.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. Love the poster in the background.
Thank you.
So Blaine, obviously I met you when you were working at Lindenwood University, and I was one of your student managers working under you. And since then, obviously you've made the jump to work for the Milwaukee Bucks. How did that happen? How did you make that jump from working college basketball at Lindenwood to the Bucks?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, kind of a set of unfortunate and very fortunate circumstances. So I just finished my second year, as you alluded to, with Coach Randall and at Lindenwood, and just kind of got called in and was just informed that the school was going through some budget cuts and that my position was going to be one of the ones that got let go. And just kind of timing wise, it occurred late in the spring. So it was towards the end of May. It was right before Memorial Day weekend. And at that point, in terms of college coaching, the coaching carousel movement, it's pretty much run its course. Most of that kind of goes on March, April, with the Final Four kind of being a big linchpin in terms of guys connecting and interviewing and things like that. So it's kind of tough situation, right? I'm a GA, so I don't have a ton of experience, don't have a ton of connections. Not really a whole lot of movement going on anymore at that point. Guys have kind of settled in on their staffs. And well, with that being said, I was actually in the process of interviewing for the GA spot at Wisconsin. So I was kind of had my sights set on jumping to Division I, trying to get to that next level, and see where it went. Obviously, for me, being from Wisconsin, it was kind of this dream come true. Had great connections through Coach Randall to their coaching staff. Thought, I had a legitimate shot, which I did. I was one of the finalists for it, but ended up not getting that. And then, found out that my job was getting cut. So kind of a double whammy. It was like, if I don't get it, so be it. Like, I would love to, but, I always got this, and then turn around and it's like, not quite. So I took that weekend. I went up to Chicago. It was kind of, again, fortunate circumstances. In this case, one of my cousins was getting married in Chicago on Memorial Day weekend. So my whole family was there. It was awesome to be able to just kind of get together and have their support and everything. And came back the next week and met with Coach, and he was just basically like, what do you want to do? Like, what, how can we help you? And he was phenomenal with what he did to keep me paid and not formally on the staff, but, to be able to have me working the summer camps and keep me there, and, offering to, if you need to sleep in my basement again, like you did when you moved down here, whatever we got to do. And so we kind of started talking, and really at that point, it's like, if there's no jobs, if a job does come up, right, and I have a legit chance, I'm going to, I'll apply for it. I'll interview for it, whatever. Like, I don't care where it is. I just want to coach and be around basketball. So it's kind of like, if you assume that nothing is going to at that point, then I started looking, okay, so what if we go back to Wisconsin, volunteer at a Division I school, just where they have more resources, have the need for more resources in terms of personnel, and somewhere where, like, if I have to live at home and commute, or, live with my brother in Milwaukee and, commute to UW Milwaukee's campus or Marquette's campus, whatever it is, and just try to add to my resume, create some more connections, and hopefully leverage that, the next year into a real job. And then we kind of started getting on. It was like, well, what about the NBA? And I was like, obviously, like, that would be incredible. Like, it wasn't even on my radar, like, in terms of possibilities. Like, I thought, maybe someday that I'd have an opportunity to, but, like, didn't even consider it at that point as like a feasible option. And kind of, again, fortunate circumstances. So when Coach Randall had started coaching as a head coach at Webster University, I think he was 26 years old. It was kind of in the heyday. Well, heyday for the Spurs is going on for a very long time, but it was towards the beginning of, like, the Spurs dynasty. And so they were obviously very well renowned and still are very well renowned in terms of their coaching staff and playing style and everything like that. So he had went to the Spurs training camp, their fall training camp. That's kind of not open invite, but like you can reach out and come and watch a couple practices and talk with the staff. And so that was the team he had gone to see for several years towards the beginning of his career, had kind of kept in contact. So he's not Coach Bud's friend, but like an associate, like he's got his phone number, he can reach out. So he basically just texted him, and Bud had gotten hired, I think it was like the 18th. So this is like 2 weeks after he's officially been hired for the job, just basically reached out. It's like, I got a guy for you. Coach Bud texts back like, how tall is he? Because obviously, the bigger you are, if you can be on court against these guys, it helps your interview case quite a bit. And I'll always remember, like, Coach Randall texting back. He's like, he's 6'2". He's like the D3 PJ Tucker. And so Bud like fired back with one of the assistants' numbers, who is now my close friend and mentor, Pat St. Andrews, with his contact info, basically, hey, reach out to him. So, and from there it was pretty formal in terms of, I called him, went to voicemail because the dude's trying to move from Atlanta to Milwaukee in like a week, and shot him a text. He sent me one back the next morning. Basically, send your cover letter and resume and references. So sent all that in, had a phone interview with Zach Peterson, who was the video coordinator prior to me, had a subsequent phone interview with Saint, and then ended up getting brought in. So kind of their being like the NBA's process is typically your in-person interview is pretty informal. Like they bring you in for a summer league practice or a draft workout practice or something like that, just to see you one-on-one, get a feel for you, and see you on the court, make sure you can move and help and do whatever that needs to be done. So I had one of those, and then I ended up coming back a second time right before they left for summer league. Just whatever, put myself out there like, hey, I'm 50 minutes. If you guys ever need a body or whatever, like, let me know. So I came back right before they left for summer league for one more, and then I went out to summer league just on my own, basically to try to network, connect. I went to a kind of a clinic of sorts, and then was going to a couple games. I think I was down there for 5 days or something like that. I went to the Bucks' first 2 games and sat with a couple other members of the staff, and then had like my final interview in terms of, I just sat with Bud for 5 minutes before a game, basically asked me all the same questions everybody else asked me, just get a feel. It's kind of the opportune word, but I came home. I had probably another week to 10 days or so, and then got the phone call. So it's pretty life-changing summer for sure, for worse at the beginning, but for better in the long term, definitely.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
super.
we Lindenwood definitely missed you. Definitely missed you when you
I
departed.
missed you guys, man.
So, Blaine, I want to get into a little bit about what you currently do for the Bucks. Obviously video coordinator. What does a typical workday look like for you?
So to start, I think if there's any confusion, a lot of times if I say my title, like people think I'm in broadcasting or social media. And if you just say video, like I totally understand that. But my job is essentially, I work underneath the coaching staff, primarily directly with Coach Bud, and prepare and edit all of our team film. So there's kind of two workflows, I would say, is like a practice day and a game day. Like practice day is usually kind of more situated around scout film for me. So I have a handful of teams that I have scouts for. And then I'm also working with the other assistants, like they're sending me, close to finalized versions of their edits for that next opponent. And I'm going through and just cleaning it up, setting the ins and outs, putting in, we call them leader slides, but what basically just like a title slide, rearranging, organizing, giving my feedback. What are we missing? What should we put in based on that opponent scout, and kind of what my feel is basically for Bud, and what his mood in terms of how much he wants to show the team and what he wants to show the team. And so the practice days are a little bit lighter in terms of that. Game days are definitely a little bit more heightened. So we'll have a shoot around typically at 10 a.m. If it's just a standard 7 or 7:30 tip. And so at that point, I'll get the shoot around tape, kind of same drill in terms of finalizing that edit to show the coaching staff. And then, we'll, as a staff, watch it together, trim it down even more, get that final version. It's just a handful of clips. And that's you're kind of under the gun. So like my seat is called the hot seat. So like you got to fire it off. Like you might not have that tape, finalized until 2-3 minutes before the meeting's supposed to start and the players are walking through. So like you got to have everything set in terms of the presentation, in terms of the tech in the room, the remote, like it's turned off, the whiteboards are cleaned off, and like pictures have been taken and sent out. Like it's just kind of like you're running around like with your head on fire for 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes, who knows. And a lot of the stuff too is then ad hoc. So like if like we could have played a game and Bud can, like, hey, I want to see these. And like you got to figure it out. Like you got to go whatever he's asked for, some pick and roll or whatever. Like, Giannis's post-ups, like you got to go find them like that, or like have someone, I had 6 staff members. You might have to grab somebody off the floor. Hey, I need these. Can you grab them? Send me, and then I'll, whatever, figure it out and finalize it. So, a little bit of a controlled chaos in a sense. And then typically in a normal world, like post shoot around, like we're at the facility if we're home. And a lot of times, like we'll play pickup as a staff for like an hour. Like we're already all in basketball gear. We've done like an hour 15 on the court, shoot around. It's pretty laid back. So we'll play pickup, and then kind of have the afternoon to yourself. So it's really a product of like how busy are you? How many scouts do you have coming up in terms of the scheduling? Like if you don't have anything for a couple of weeks, like you might not have anything to do. But most of the time there's always something. For me, there always is, because we'll have the pregame tape. So then it's basically kind of like that next wave. Like you move from prep for shoot around to prep for pregame. So helping whatever assistant's responsible for the scout package that together, put it together, ATO stuff, rotations, and then obviously just you'll have like random things that come up, always little projects. And then, for me, a lot of times it does end up being a great time for me to like get in some of the scouting stuff, be able to put in play calls for my scout coach, or watch a game if he needs me to watch a game, package a project together for him. And then game time. So I'll usually get to the arena about 3.5 or 4 hours before the game and set up all my stuff. So in the back, we have video feeds coming in, and I will capture the feed on my computer using the software we have and live code the game basically and prepare the halftime edit. And that's really where it's a hot seat. Like you gotta be on one. Like you have to like be watching the game and coding and labeling and all that stuff. And, be prepared to put together a halftime edit for the coaching staff. So usually it's 8 to 10 clips is what we limit it to. We'll watch those as a collective staff. Anything that we feel pertinent to the scout, to the trend or theme in the game. If it's something we prepared for that we're not doing and we need to address it, or it's an action or a player that's hurting us that we didn't necessarily expect to, and we need to make an adjustment. It's basically kind of establishes that or reinforces that with a visual for the players. And all right, hey, this is what we're doing now. So we'll watch it, and then at halftime I'll flip out with my assistant. So he goes into the back, finishes coding the game, packages it up, gets it to all the coaches, and I'm behind the bench just helping with video needs back there. So we'll have like an iPad if a coach or a player wants to see a clip, getting them that information. If there's with the coaches challenge this year, that was kind of an added wrinkle for us in terms of being a resource for that as best we could. A lot of times it really didn't matter. You kind of coaches, they're just going to make up their mind. Like if they're super angry about a call and they feel like it's a pivotal point, they're going to challenge it. But we tried to just have that just as a resource and ready to go. Cause there were definitely times where, Coach Bud, and I'm sure you guys have seen it with all the games where they're turning around and they're pointing at someone. Well, like that guy is like me. That's the guy they're pointing at is me or in my case, Skylar in the first half, my assistant. But and that dude is, he's shitting down his pants, for lack of a better term, because you got to get it right, and you're completely under duress. And if you get it wrong, it's your fault. Even if you got one view, you got a sideline view, so it's not, you're not going to the monitor with 5 angles and slow mo and all this stuff. You got about 10 seconds to watch this clip and come to a decision, and could be a difference in the game. So. And then post game for me is again where a lot of my work gets done. A little bit different in the playoffs. We'll watch it as a staff, but typically just during the regular season, I will, after the game, depending on what our schedule is, I would say 75% of the time I'll stay up and watch the game. On very rare occasions, I'll just get up super early the next morning if I know I'm going to have time, just based on if we have a back to back, and we're definitely not going to watch film the next day. We're not gonna have anything until the game. I'll just watch it in the morning. But with the exception of that, I'll stay up, watch the game. Coach will kind of give me a list of what he wants to see and look for, and then I kind of have the creative capacity to, if there's anything that I notice or really sticks out, that I may send to him on the side. I may include in the edit, kind of just having a feel for how big the edit is as a whole when you kind of get to that final stage. And sometimes we'll watch it, sometimes we don't. The season moves pretty quickly, and when you're pretty established in what you do and kind of have an identity on both ends of the floor and you're winning a lot of games, then a lot of times there really isn't much of a need for the collective team to watch film, but the full staff does. Anything that I think Bud needs to see, if he's not already watching the game on his own, I'll send to him. But that's kind of workflow, and then basically just wake up, repeat again. If it's an off day, we're meeting, finalize that tape, and then kind of go from there.
So real quick, I want to ask a quick follow-up there. You just said there at the end that if you feel like there's anything Bud needs to see, you'll send it to him. Is that a decision you make? What leads you to make that decision? Hey, I think Bud needs to see this, or is there something have you ever sent him something and him come back to you be like, yeah, I didn't really need to see that? Or was it always he's grateful for what you think he might see?
He's pretty receptive to it. He's never, I usually just get a thumbs up back. He's doing way more important things. So he'll watch it. And I try to keep it super short. It's usually just it's either something that's very jarring or very good. And that we're doing offensively. A lot of times, it's something that we might be doing on accident, within motion or somebody's read, or, a pick and roll spacing or something like that. Just some kind of quirk that's oh, wow, this is actually really good for us. Good for him to see, kind of plant a seed. Maybe we want to add a new action into motion or pick and roll, whatever it is. And then defensively, a lot of times it's okay, this is really hurting us. It hasn't really been, maybe it's something that when a team goes in the end of the game and they're running, just picking out a guy and running pick and roll, and they do it for 5 times in a row, it's pretty obvious, what they're trying to expose and what's not good for you. Right. But if there's just something that kind of gets sprinkled in throughout a game, it's okay, maybe we need to kind of assess this and address this and figure out what we're doing and maybe be a little bit more clear with the guys. So just something like that. I would say probably 80% of the time it's offense for me. That's kind of, it's way more how I see the game, and there's way more space for just randomness within our offense, and we're pretty rigid and we do what we do defensively. So most of the time it's offense, but he's usually really receptive and intrigued by it.
So Blaine, obviously that jump from coaching college to professional is extremely impressive. It's something that not everybody does. Could you talk a little bit about what that jump was like, going from sort of a mid-level college program to the highest level of basketball in the world?
Yeah, first I'd say, and this is not some cliche thing. Like, there are really good coaches at every level of basketball. Like, the players might be the highest level, but that doesn't mean like that the coaches are the highest level. And there are really good coaches. Like, you have to be a very good coach, obviously, to become an NBA head coach. Like, there's no question about that. Or to be an assistant. Like, no question about that. But like, there are some really good coaches at every level. I think, to me, the jump was kind of twofold. It was definitely just how immersed you get in the game. Like, we play so many games. The season is from September to June if you're lucky, and fortunate to play into the finals. Like, it's just, you are completely immersed in basketball. And that was what Coach Randall said to me when I left. He's like, man, you're going to get a PhD in basketball because you're watching so much. Like, you're watching scout games and your games, and you're on the court all day. And like, so to me, that has been, and it kind of ties into the second one as far as like the lifestyle of it and kind of the structure of it, is it's just so different because you're working with guys that are formal professionals, not, fake professionals like in college. That's my plug, that they should get paid. But like, you're just always around it, as opposed to, and then like PJ could speak to this, like we're running around, we're doing laundry, and like I'm prepping meals and packing up a bus and going to Costco at 9:00 at the night to load up my car with snacks and Gatorades, like, and my car can barely like drive. Like doing class checks, like that's all part of it. That's all part of the college game. Like, it's inherent in it. It's not, in my mind, it's not necessarily bad or good. Like, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of really cool advantages that come from that. Like, I love being on a college campus. Like, there's just something about it, about like that energy, and especially at the beginning of the year, and then once you're into the season, like, it's just different. Like, in that sense, for me now, like, I drive to work. Like, I have my it's not a 9 to 5, it's more like a 5 to 9. But like, like, I just drive to work. Like, there's like that professional corporate kind of essence to it, I suppose. But I think that was kind of it. Like, I'm still doing things. I was doing things my first year that weren't like necessarily like basketball. It wasn't like I was like on the court or watching film 24/7. Like, there's projects and things that need to be done to help facilitate the coaching staff. It could be something like as simple as like me driving Coach Bud's kids to the airport, because like, we're in the middle of a playoff series, and like his kids are leaving, and like the coaching staff is going to watch film. Like, he can't drive his kid, right? So like, that's just kind of like a microcosm. Like, there's a bunch of things that the coaching staff needs help with and assistance with, and in my mind, it's always like you're not directly impacted, but you're indirectly. Like, me doing this is, allows X person to watch film for an hour, or talk to a player, or whatever it is. Like, kind of indirectly, like allowing guys to kind of up the ladder to have a more direct, and obviously with Coach Bud, like a very direct impact on the team. But that was kind of like, it's more like the lifestyle and just kind of environment that you're in, where it's basketball 24/7, 365. I love it. It's phenomenal. Like, and you learn so much, especially that first year. Like, that first year is a huge jump, I think, for everybody, just to, like, it's so much more than just like if you're just casually watching even a game every night. Like, but it's cool. It's a great like environment for learning and creating and experimenting and kind of growing.
It's interesting. It definitely seems like you're chasing the dream, which is super cool. And, everybody wants to do that and follow their dream. So it's cool to see that you're fulfilling it in a little bit. I want to get a little bit to the Bucks itself, and you as the video coordinator, and some things you've seen on film. We've seen Giannis take a leap back to 3-point percentages we saw 2 years ago, but he's shooting over 2 more a game. Is there something on film that you've seen from Giannis that has improved in his jump shot?
Just mechanically, yeah, but I think overall he's just more comfortable. Feels kind of, I think a big part of what we do is try to empower guys and just get repetitions for him. Like, that's really what it comes down to, him getting comfortable in game shots, off the dribble, off the catch, whatever it is. Just getting a bunch of reps up. Like, I know it sounds like a very simple answer, but like, it's a big deal. Like getting guys to knowing that like the coaching staff has the confidence in you and all of our players. Like, like I think we had Robin Lopez who shot like 57 threes, I want to say, like in his career prior to getting here. He shot 106 this year and shot a career high in percentage. Like, we want guys to shoot it. Like, a lot of that comes in the off season and in the fall leading up to the season to get these guys reps and get them comfortable and like empower them to shoot when they're open. It's a huge part of, it's probably the most important part of today's game, as we've seen kind of over the last 8 to 10 years, like the premium that is shooting at every position and at range and off the dribble and off the catch, and what that can do to a defense and is pretty powerful. So I think with everybody, I mean, Brooke was the same way when he got here. His numbers went up in terms of 3-point attempts and percentages. Like, some of it's just good luck, but I think a lot of it really is just like guys, like when you can take more and like you're more confident you're gonna make it.
Perfect. Going down, so obviously you spent the last couple months down in Orlando in the bubble. Take us through that experience. Take us through that. It was probably really weird for you. Take us through that experience. What was your daily life like down in the bubble down there?
First, I will say it was obviously a really cool experience to be part of, to be like one of a handful of people. I think the budget or the kind of the cap on it was about like 1,600 people or so. So a little bit fluid as you had teams leave and more NBA personnel came in, families came in, things like that. But to kind of be there from the beginning and be a part of history, and then obviously be a part of even more history with what our players decided to do in Game 5 against Orlando. But it was pretty bizarre to start. I definitely think I took some getting used to and kind of accustomed to the environment. Like, we're so used and so wired to, we're traveling all the time. We're traveling half the year. Within a playoff series, you're flying to and from a city, a couple times mostly. And then just to be in the same spot and be in the same hotels, all these other teams, and the proximity, and the practice floors are in the hotel and some are not. It was a lot. I would say for a lot of people that were in my position, as a video guy, the training staff, the equipment manager, like there was a lot asked of us. I mean, there normally is. Like, we're the lower end of the totem pole, and like a lot of those responsibilities fall on us, and that's the way it is. Like, that's what you do. You do your job, and that's part of it. But just being there and kind of how heightened everything was, and I think the thing that really stuck out for me the most was we played every other day. From the moment we started playing scrimmage games, we played every other day. And like, we, in normal world season playoffs, like, we do play a lot of games, but they have, things built in there where, you have a travel day or you got a couple days off. And I didn't really realize like how important that was for me, because there's basically like I got a terrible night's sleep and then I got like an okay night's sleep, and like it was just every other, and like you're always just like waking up, preparing, like, all right, trying to get calibrated and as much recharge as possible to basically just go through it again. And it takes a toll. Like, it's a pretty, like, I was exhausted when we came home. I didn't realize it until I got home, because when you're in there and you're continuing to play and you're fighting for something, like I used it earlier, but you just figure it out. Like, you find it, you get your 5 hours of sleep, and like somehow that's enough. And then like as soon as we came home, which like I wasn't happy about, certainly. I mean, like my first night, I think I slept like 11 hours, like straight through. I haven't slept straight through a night in like 10 years, let alone 11 hours. Like, that was when I was like 10 years old and like going through growing pains, I guess. Like, but I think the normal day for us, like, again, it's really like game day, like practice day, game day. And really for us, when it got down to it and we got deeper and deeper and we've been there, like we're barely practicing. Like, our guys are playing every other day. Like, we're not going to roll out the ball for 3 hours and like, kill their legs. And like, we got a game the next day. And like, if we win that one, we got a game in like 2 days after that. But it's still like we're still kind of going through the workflows of all the prep with shoot around and pregame, watch the game again, and then prepare the team film. So for me, my job definitely got exponentially heightened because we're watching the film as a staff as opposed to just myself. So it does take a little bit longer. You have 10 people's opinions rather than just my opinion and my set of eyes. So not even my opinion, but like there's certainly things that I miss just going through the game. There's a lot going on that other coaches might see or do see, and then that kind of goes off into a world of its own, whether it's a conversation about what we're doing or trying to piece through the film and find more instances of that so we can show the team and talk about it. But so we would watch as a staff after the playoff game, and then I would go through with what we've all marked and basically condense it and organize it and edit it so that it flows and is in the correct order in terms of the way we watch things as a team. And we'd wake up early the next morning, make sure Bud's got it, kind of whatever little mini projects. So like then I'm doing like scout stuff, like so we're in the Orlando series, Miami is one of my teams, we're in the Miami series, Toronto's one of my teams. So I'm going through trying to put in play calls from Toronto's game or like get stuff organized to go advanced scout, whatever it is administratively with my staff. And then we would meet as a staff, decide how much film we're going to show, what we're going to show, piece that down. And then again, it's kind of like hair's on fire. Like we're leaving for the meeting. We're going to meet 10, 15 minutes. And like, I'm on my computer finalizing the edit as I'm basically power walking, riding the elevator down, going all the way to the other end of the hotel to our meeting room. And like, hoping that everything's good tech-wise in there. Otherwise it might be a little rough, but that's really what it was like. And just kind of lather, rinse, repeat. Like once that was done, again, like moving on to whatever pregame stuff we're doing for the game the next day. Most of the time we had a lot of early games, especially in the Orlando series where we didn't have a shoot around. Might have had like an optional shoot around where we'd go off site onto the Worldwide of Sports and have like guys could just go if they wanted to go, they could go. Nothing really formal. And then same deal, get to the arena, get set up, code the game, watch the second half, watch it as a staff, finish the edit, wake up, do it all over again. But I will say the league did an absolutely incredible job. They are doing an incredible job. I don't know all the specifics obviously, but just witnessing like the logistics that they've done, just testing alone is incredible. The transportation to and from, everything's timely. The food, I know like everyone like kind of was like throwing the food under the bus, literally and figuratively, like that first weekend. But like when you take into account like they're trying to get like 1,600 people these boxed lunches, 3 meals a day, like it, and they gave you a ton of food. Like it wasn't anything lavish, but really once we got out of that 2-day quarantine, and then there were a couple more days where like they were bringing more chefs in, and then as we were there, they kept expanding, like more options, more chefs, team chefs, restaurants on campus that opened up. Like it was really good. And like to just kind of, they're doing that for every single team at 3 different hotels. Like it's incredible. The setup, like the playing sites at the 3 venues, when we toured it, like you guys can see like the video, like behind the scenes, like it's insane, like the amount of stuff. And like literally, and I'm knock on wood, I hope nothing's gone wrong. Like you've never seen like this, you haven't been in a game and all of a sudden like one screen just goes completely blank and all the fans are gone and like it looks terrible. Like there's been like, I mean, I'm sure there have been hiccups behind the scenes, but like what they've done from the playing and transportation and food and logistics and practice schedules and like basically like you're having to do this all on the fly, like especially now like teams are getting knocked out and you might have to like reassess and like, all right, well, okay, their shooting times are up. Can we shuffle this team? Do they want it? And like the amount of communication. And I mean, it's insane, like that what they've been able to do and pull off. And then obviously from the safety standpoint, arguably the safest place in the United States, which isn't really saying much, but it's not. It doesn't mean it's not true.
You called it a campus there, and then earlier you said you love the college campus feel working for a college basketball program. Did you kind of regain that a little bit by being down in the bubble? Did it feel different still?
No, that was like that was more like your. I hesitate to use the word like a prison, because I have never been in prison. And obviously, and we had phenomenal trip to Racine Correctional Institution and met with some amazing individuals and people. But that was, you're stuck there. It's obviously much more lavish than a prison, and it's Florida, so it's 75, 80 sunny every day. So I can't complain. But in terms of how it felt, like you're just that's all you can do. The only time you can leave campus was to shuttle to and from the playing sites. And I got to golf early on when we were in kind of more training camp mode and there weren't games going on. But that was the same thing. You had to organize it, you had to communicate, they had to get you set up with a tee time and a shuttle. And, but after that first week or two, and we started playing games, it was you're just here or there. And that's it.
So Blaine, I know you said you work a lot with the coaches, but I kind of want to get into the players. What is it like working with rookies or younger guys compared to working with veterans like the Lopez Twins?
So I think a big part of it, especially for the younger guys, this is just my brief experience in the league, is a lot of those guys now it's pretty clear cut. They're either ready to play or they're a little bit more of a project. And they, have some intangible skill or size or athleticism that, coaching staff and front office see that they can mold, and they're, super young. You obviously see a lot of these guys coming in really early, but I think a big part of it is just off the court, getting them accustomed to that lifestyle and to a big, having money and how things operate, and an adjustment from kind of more of a college coaching philosophy to, especially for us, kind of a new age, player focused, way more laid back in terms of the approach, and the relationship is more mutual as opposed to, kind of a, dictatorship. Not that that's wrong, but I think you see that a lot of these tough, hard-headed coaches in college that are very demanding. That's fine. They're dealing with a different set of individuals. I think the off the court and kind of getting them established is a lot more important, or a larger jump. Playing wise, a lot of these guys are ready to go, especially if you're drafting them in the first round. It's really more terminology. You've obviously identified some areas of improvement for these guys, so you're going to kind of hit the ground running in terms of trying to address them and love them up a little bit, get them used to the coaching staff. And a lot of that normally would get done kind of in summer league stuff. So they get drafted, they come in, they're working out, the rest of the summer league team roster gets organized, and then you're kind of going through and we're going to run and establish a lot of the same principles and terminology that we will in the fall with the official roster. So really about getting them up to speed with terminology and trying to at least start kind of planting the seed in terms of the player development areas that we think that they need to address. With veterans, we certainly believe that these guys can still improve. And I think Brooke and Robin are two great examples of that. With Robin, his shooting and just opening it up for him. And then Brooke, just kind of his overall skill set, handling the ball a little bit more, driving the ball, obviously shooting more and shooting from deep. But he's seen stuff where he's handling and pick and roll, and it's maybe that never translates, but just him experiencing something different and getting a feel for the basketball and kind of what that might relate to and in a real game situation. And we certainly think those guys can get better, but I think the bulk of their time, they've kind of established their role, especially the older vets, Kyle Korver, for example. We're not going to reinvent the wheel with Kyle. He's going to come in, he's going to get his shots up, and he's going to go through his game shooting and all his routines and his prep and do what he needs to do. And, that's that. Like every now and then, we'll sprinkle a little bit of stuff, just kind of for fun, keep him loose, keep his body guessing, keep his mind guessing, give him some more reads and stuff, because like he may very well find himself driving down the paint in the middle of a playoff game, like, and needs to be ready for it. So I think that those two, like the adjustment, personally, and then kind of more the which areas are you trying to target in terms of player development, growth, and like what's the balance of those, like way more shifted towards kind of addressing weaknesses and trying to improve them, as opposed to like a veteran player, like you have their established set of skills and you're trying to grow and continue to strengthen those and sprinkle in a little bit of like some new stuff, try to add to their game.
So you mentioned the draft, and obviously this 2020, the lead up to this draft is different than we've ever seen it. As the video coordinator, do you have a role this year in, getting film on some players that, maybe we don't get to see at the combine like we usually would? What's your process this offseason in trying to, basically get some film on these guys?
So I really don't play too much of a role in terms of video prep. So our whole front office, they have personnel in place that's ongoing throughout the entire year in terms of getting the scouts and front office executives film on guys. They're traveling, they're going to see the players and writing reports. So like they handle all that. I might, like, once in a blue moon, like if Bud wants to see something, and like that's the easiest way for me to, like, we get super close to the draft and it's like, okay, like these are the 3-4 guys that we think are going to be there, and like the easiest thing is for me to do it and get it to them, then I will. But for the most part, in terms of draft prep, my stuff is, and this is kind of inherent in the off season, is like everyone kind of gets to like shift up a little bit. So summer league, like if we had a summer league this year, I would have been an assistant coach with a summer league team, and one of my assistants would have been like the acting video coordinator. So like, and one of the assistant coaches is the head coach for the summer league team. So everything kind of shifts up. Everyone gains experience and kind of gets reps and gets a feel for what that next step is for them. And so kind of precluding that with the draft is very similar. Like, not all the coaches are in town. Some guys are traveling. Some guys are with our players. Some guys are on vacation, whatever it is in a normal world, where like I kind of the younger coaches, and then people like myself that are in the video coordinator or like the player development assistant roles, like we kind of get to bump up and shift up. So when we have players come in for the draft prep, we're helping run drills or in charge of drills, whatever it is, and like doing the on the floor work while the higher ups in the coaching staff, the higher ups in the front office, scouts, whoever it is, like they're watching, observing, taking notes, whatever their whole process is for determining where a guy's going to fit. Because it's not all just the draft. Like you'll bring in guys in your range, obviously, but then you're also taking a look at guys towards the end of the second round. Maybe you want to trade or purchase a second round pick if you really like a guy, or if you have obviously multiple second round picks. A lot of times those can shift around pretty quickly on draft night, so you need to be ready in case your second round pick all of a sudden flips considerably. And then the last part is like the summer league roster. Like you're trying to piece together, you're going to put together a summer league roster with undrafted free agents and overseas guys, and so and that a lot of times can translate to your G League team, like guys that you bring in that you really like, and get a feel for, get to look at, get to see them play up close, and understand who they are as a person, and is it a culture fit, and like does that translate to then a two-way contract in the G League, where it's an opportunity for these guys to play. So just kind of, you have the especially if you have an early first round lottery pick, whatever it is, like obviously you got to do your due diligence in that whole range and figure out who you want to take and who's going to be available. But kind of like the underlying process too with the second round and undrafted guys and putting together a G League roster eventually and who fits. And so a lot of stuff for me, but draft prep is on the court, which is cool. So, I spend most of my season in the theater, in my office, certainly for practices and stuff. I'm out on the floor and help out post practice. But like my main priority is the film and making sure that's ready. Like, so to be able to take a break from that when we're not playing games and, focus my energies and my growth on the court is great.
So, quick follow-up going off that. Is there any one skill or attribute that you've noticed that a player absolutely 100% must have to make it in today's NBA, whether that be something tangible, such as how well they shoot the ball, or intangible, being like coachability?
That's a great question. I mean, I think for us, I think it varies from coaching staff to coaching staff, especially with the intangible stuff. Like, what can be coachable on one team might not be coachable on another. The one that sticks out to me the most is shooting. Like at a baseline level, like for us especially, like you have to be able to shoot. It just changes so much in the way teams can defend you and will defend you. And kind of the flip side of that is like if you can't, like you have to be an elite athlete. Like you have to have one of those two. Like you can't have neither. Or like it's got to be. I think you look at us like, we have what we perceive as shooting guys that we believe in and can shoot the ball. And, there are teams where guys like can't. Like you look at the Lakers and like Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, right? But like they're still playing because like they're elite athletes. They can defend. They fit with the way the way that team plays. Like, they might not be a great fit for our system and our philosophy. Like, doesn't mean like our guys would be a great fit in theirs, right? So, I think though, like that kind of, it's not one skill, but that kind of tandem, especially with bigs. I think smalls, like you have to be able to play and pick and roll. I think that's kind of emerging more and more as far as like the variety in terms of who's handling the basketball has shifted and is continuing to shift so much. Like it's not point guard center 100% of the time anymore, like it was a while back. And if you were a good wing, like you were ice wing, right? And now it's becoming way more just random variety. And I mean, I think if you guys watch the Miami series, like that was one of the things that, in my opinion, was so difficult to adjust because like they had so many guys that could handle and set, and then whether they were setting it or slipping out or rolling, popping, like it's very difficult to guard and address when you're trying to get matchups and put guys in the best positions to succeed. And you think you're set, and all of a sudden they're running somebody else up there, and it's like it's a lot. It's a lot to handle. I think that was pretty indicative of kind of like where the league has gone and has continued to go. The biggest one, I guess, across the board, like you have to be able to guard. You can't not be able to defend. So, but that's inherent at every single level of basketball. Like if you can't guard, unless you're just an absolute bucket getter, like you're not playing. Just the reality of it.
So Blaine, here at Odd Sports Topics, we talk about odd things that occur in sports. What's one thing in your career, either college or with the Milwaukee Bucks, that you have encountered that's been odd?
I think the most apparent one was a boycott for us in Game 5. Obviously, being a part of history and witnessing it, kind of behind the scenes, and super proud of what our players did and decided to do and stand for in terms of the big picture, and obviously the way that kind of the fallout has gone on in terms of readdressing and bringing awareness again to an important conversation and topic in our society. But yeah, I mean, even going back to like the Down Sterling stuff with the Clippers, like they considered it and they talked about it. They didn't end up having to do it because of what the commissioner did. But really, like, it hasn't happened before. Certainly not in this light and in for this reason. But I won't go into too much detail. It's a little bit, it's private amongst the guys, and I'm basically just a fly on the wall to be able to witness it. But it was a super powerful moment to be a part of, and obviously the message, nationally and internationally, and we saw it kind of permeate into the other sports and the collective conversation and what we've seen in terms of like voting sites and the things that the owners are coming forward and agreeing to, kind of big picture like this. It's certainly not done just because of one game being boycotted, but I was certainly unique, and I guess weird is an appropriate word, but very historical. I can't imagine I'll ever be part of something like that again. Personally, I hope I'm not, because that means we're moving in the right direction. But I think that to me is the most evident, kind of, especially recent.
Yeah, that was definitely a unique situation and historical, like you said. Another odd thing that we just comes to our head is the end of that Miami Bucks game where Jimmy Butler at the line. The Bucks were down like 7 with like a minute to go. Chris Middleton gets fouled by Dragic, hits all 3 of those free throws, and then go to the other end. Jimmy Butler gets fouled. Was that like the most odd ending to a basketball game you've ever seen?
Upper body moved enough. All right, 4.3. Miami inbounds. Here's Butler with 3. Butler with 2. With 1. Butler against Matthews. Gets it away and no good. Do we have a foul? We do. A foul is called. And Jimmy Butler can win it at the line. Another jump shooter fouled. Let's see if it's Matthews or Giannis who they get. And they're going to look, too, to make sure that Butler got it off in time. And also
zeros, with the clock going to zeros, okay?
How much time's on the clock when the foul occurred here? Is it Giannis?
Where's the foul there?
The Bucks used their challenge already. They get Giannis for the foul. Let's see the left hand here. Does he makes contact there, puts it on the body of the shooter, Jimmy Butler. Let's see if he gets it away.
Instant replay confirms the on-floor decision. The shot was released prior to the expiration of the period. The legal contact happened afterwards. We'll put double zeros on the clock, and they'll shoot their 2 free throws with no lineup on the floor, okay? With no lineup, no players, okay?
No lineup. So a little bit different situation for Jimmy Butler. It's like shooting a technical foul here. Nobody will be on the lane lines.
But you see the Bucks gathering under the basket.
That's a hard one, too. Like, he touches him with his left arm, but did it affect the shot?
All he's got to do is make one. And the Miami Heat will take a 2-0 series lead after blowing a 6-point lead with 19.8 on the clock. Jimmy Butler made a mistake, not calling a timeout first of all, then throwing it underneath his own basket where Lopez picked it off and scored. George Hill's got to be back behind the 3-point line there. I don't know if he said something to Butler. Probably. Here we go. Got it. So this is just for the scoring here, but Miami up 2-0 in the series. Wow. After blowing the lead. And Milwaukee tying the game.
Yeah, especially with the free throws at the end. I think I can't remember if it was a playoff game or just any game. But it was like the first time since the early 1970s, it was 70 or 72. I want to say it was any game, was like 1972 that has ended on a playoff, like dead ball, free throw, no time on the clock. And I think like any game, or like any playoff game was like 1950 something, like just something just absolutely absurd. But yeah, like, I mean, that was a furious comeback. So like when we went back and kind of watched it, and it was like, obviously your emotions are like super heightened, and with the call and the way things ended, you could stand there and just watch like helplessly as a guy goes to the free throw line. But we were super lucky to even be in that position to begin with. So it was kind of take it with a grain of salt, I guess. It didn't make it feel any better being down 2-0, but yeah, it was just absolutely bizarre. Their coaches are asking me like, what's the rule on this? I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen this before. Like most people haven't. Certainly no one's experienced it before. But yeah, it was just kind of a bizarre ending, bizarre series for us, I guess, overall, but that's pretty strange.
Now this is a random kind of follow up. So when those free throws are happening, it was at your bench, the end of where the Bucks bench is. Is it legal for the players to go to the baseline there? As long as they're not in the court itself, because obviously that's a technical. But could they stand under the basket and when there's no time left and the only possible way of winning this game is 2 missed free throws to go to overtime?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't really. I was like focused on other things. So like, if you watch the tape and like the guys are down there, then I mean, I guess. But they were pretty strict just overall about like the guys staying back behind kind of that barricade. I'm sure guys were. We had as games went on. Like I'm sure you guys have seen it from every team. Like guys start crawling up on top, sitting on top. They're in front of it. They're like coming out. Like, I mean, it's just kind of inherent with like the intensity of the game as it goes on and gets in late into the fourth quarter. So I'm sure some of our guys were out on the sideline on the floor, but I don't think that they would have been allowed to go down to the baseline, especially if there's a ref standing right there. You would have told them. And there's no one else out there, so it'd be pretty obvious. But I don't think so. It's not really a precedent for it, though, right? Like, technically, the game's expired, so like you could pretend like you're just walking to your locker room.
Right.
I guess I don't know.
So, Blaine, you've made some really big jumps already in your career. What are some next steps for you, and where do you see yourself in, say, about 5-10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky. I would say that. Just put in pretty fortunate situations, and when you do that, you got to take advantage of it. But I think overall for me, like my next step, where I see myself, 1, 3, 5 years, whatever it is, eventually, like I want to become an assistant coach at this level. And then kind of once you get into that kind of range, then, there's still a hierarchy within that in terms of like behind the bench, front of the bench assistant, all the way up to associate head coach. And then the end goal definitely for me to become a head coach. So I think, I hope I'm not a video coordinator in 5 years. That'll be my own undoing. I'd have a lot less hair, and the hair that I have would be great. But I think I'd really like to become an assistant coach, and kind of expand and continue to grow, especially on the court and with scouting and in-game strategy. And obviously there's a financial incentive to do that as well. But just to kind of establish myself and kind of see where it can go, continue to just kind of follow the journey, and whatever my title is, just appreciate it. And I know I'm incredibly fortunate to be in the situation I've been in. There's never a day that I do not take it for granted. And knowing, and PJ can attest, it's like knowing where I was in the situation, like how things just, if you do the right thing, you treat people the right way, that things work out in the end. But yeah, I think next 5 years, hopefully an assistant coach somewhere, whether, could be Milwaukee, could be somewhere else, who knows? A lot of it is tied to, the people that I'm close with and work for and work with. I think that it's pretty evident across the board in every industry, but certainly with sports. It is about your relationships and the ones you craft. And, when you're out on the outside looking in, that can kind of be hard to kind of stomach or come to terms with, because you're trying to break through. But like when you're in the trenches and, a coach, moves on and becomes a head coach somewhere and wants to bring somebody, or, getting bumped up within a staff, like I absolutely think that there's a huge part is like the level of comfort and continuity and like avoiding turnover and like having guys that you know what they're about, what they can do, and you trust them. Like, I totally get that. So, a lot of times like that's way more the avenue for someone like me than it is like, I'm not just going to pick up the phone and try to call some head coach and dial numbers until I get one and be like, hey, can I be an assistant for you? Like, it doesn't work like that. Or like you can't like hop on LinkedIn and put your resume out there and hope for the best. Like, it's definitely a relationship based industry, and that's, to me, that's pretty evident. Like that's kind of where my pathway is. And but for now, I'm gonna do the best job I can, be the best video coordinator I can, try to be a resource for Coach Bud and the coaching staff, and obviously the players. And just kind of have a sense of belief and that it'll work out. It'll come in time. Can't be impatient. Just got to be prepared.
And we are definitely cheering for you on that process, and hopefully in 5 to 10 years from now, I'll be watching you on the sidelines, getting mad at calls and yelling at refs. I like to end I like to end these interviews in a fun way. So obviously now you travel with the team, you're taking these private jets out to these cities. But I know deep down inside you still miss these bus drives from Kearney, Nebraska, and Hays, Kansas. These 8-hour bus rides back to Lindenwood. So my question is to you:
go ahead.
What was do you miss those days? Do you miss those bus rides, those trips, and everything like that?
Oh, absolutely, man. I would say I don't physically miss the time, like cramped up on a bus, like with, trying to do like my graduate school homework and, figure out where the heck our next meal is coming from. And, but I, certainly miss the people without question. I mean, just as well as I do, like the personalities from, the players and the coaches and the managers and training staff. Like, it was a phenomenal group for the couple of years I was there. I had an absolute blast. Flying on a chartered jet and staying in 5-star hotels instead of Holiday Inn Expresses is a pretty nice perk. I don't really want to give that up so much, but no, it's certainly special. I think for people across the board, like having an understanding and appreciation for where you started and where you've come from, and if I'm fortunate to be in the NBA for the rest of my career, and continue to have those experiences, like, it's all relative, putting it in perspective, and it's only as fun as the people you share it with.
I mean, yeah, those were some of my favorite years of my college experience was with you and Coach Ham and Coach Randall and Logan and all, the whole team and managing staff. So thank you for being part of that and helping me do that.
Can't shout out Big Shug and Carrie and Abby.
Abby, whole team. We got the whole, Adam, Chandler. Let's shout everybody out. We got everybody and everybody back in the Lindenwood days.
Yeah.
But we thank you so much for being on here. Enjoy your break. I'm sure before you get back to work, enjoy your time in Seattle, enjoying the outdoors. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on. It's been fun to follow along, and I mean, I'll definitely watch this one for sure.
Thanks so much to Blaine Mueller for coming on the Outsports Topics podcast today. Make sure to go check us out on Twitter and Facebook at Outsports Topics. Go check out our website, oddsportstopics.com, oddsportstopics.com. You can see all of our articles that we write on odd things in sports, including our NFL bets that we place every week. So go check that out. Just a couple examples here. I got some of my cards here. We did an article on sports cards. Here's some of my Baker Mayfield rookie cards. We've got Bam Adebayo right here, bunch of that. Go check out that article on sports cards. It's very interesting. Here's another Gardner Minshew. So if you're interested in sports cards, go check that one out on Odd Sports Topics. Go see Matt Costa just wrote an article on the Miami Heat. They were just eliminated in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. We did an article on the Lakers as well as how they got their team name. So go check out our tab of Team Name Tuesdays to go see all of those articles. It was great to be with Matt and PJ once again. And we thank Blaine one more time. And make sure to go check us out, guys. We really appreciate it. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Share this with anybody that you think would like these interviews that we're doing or just our posts that we have on Odd Sports Topics. Make sure to go into our articles, subscribe with your email so that these posts can be directly sent to your email so you don't have to guess when we're posting. You'll get no other emails from us except our articles sent directly to your emails. It's a really cool thing. So thank you all very much for watching. We really appreciate it. Until next time, goodbye.